I'm great, Lindsay. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to talk to you today because, as you know, confidence is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And we're here to talk specifically about embodied confidence. What does embodied confidence mean to you, Andrea?
I'm well, first I want to start off and say that my definition of it changed a little bit after watching your keynote speech about confidence and how you viewed it, and so much of that hit home. And I really loved that how you talked about how it doesn't always start from above the neck, that it can start, below the shoulders and getting out of our own heads about it. And so for me, embodied confidence is having that head to toe, like awareness, calmness, and ability to like go into a situation and fully trust ourselves.
Love that. So, yeah, how would you distinguish between confidence that does come right above the neck and confidence that's in our body? How do you distinguish between those two?
To be honest, I think they are one and the same. I've just found through my experience that building physical
Mhm.
confidence through what our body can do and the feedback and the brain body connection, because I do think you need to be confident in your head and in your heart and body at the same time. And so I just feel like if you can build it physically, I have found that it translates much faster in real time to your head and heart.
Totally. Just like, when at my very first career, my very first job was in customer service. I think as we all right, have tried some kind of customer service or service oriented role when we start out in our careers. And they often say, to smile, right? Like even if you're not feeling happy, when you smile, it can, right? If we start it physically, it can hopefully then trigger in our brain the feelings of happiness. So it's the same kind of thing where we can embody confidence. Hopefully, then it will start to translate into our mind.
Yes,
And
perfectly
besides
put.
saying, thank you so much for saying that about the keynote. I appreciate that compliment. But is there another moment, Andrea, besides that you felt was a like a realization or a trigger to the power of embodied confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to rewind a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and something that we shared in common was being a high level competitive athlete, you in hockey, and I was a competitive gymnast, but I transferred over to the sport of freestyle wrestling at the age of 15 when I was too tall to be a gymnast anymore. And I represented Canada for many years and so competed on a high level where physical confidence was something that I didn't know I had, and had no idea how to translate it into the real world. And if anything, I feel like I was not confident, mentally and psychologically, but I physically was, very. And so when I figured out how to connect the two, I would say that was when I got into stunts in film and television. That was when I took all my lessons as an athlete and a mature woman who, finally was ready to carve her own path, and realized that whenever I stepped on set, I was I was performing, but I had to use my body to do a physical task. And how I showed up told a story to the director, told the story to my stunt boss, told the story to the actor that I'm and doubling. And so if I didn't embody the confidence through that movement, no one was going to believe it. And the camera does not lie. And so that is when I really started to realize that when you have pure confidence in what your body is doing, where it is in space, how it's taking up space, that energy just it comes out and it tells a story much more than any kind of words could do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting the connection between your athletic pursuits and my athletic pursuits. And that's often where I too have felt the most confident when you're in flow, right? Like you're forgetting time and space and you're forgetting where you are and you're not even thinking and you're just exuding that confidence. Like, how do we translate that? And like you're saying, you're right, with a stunt, you got to go. You got to just, you just have to
You
do
have to
it.
be in flow state. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like your body starts, and then your mind needs to catch up, right?
Yeah, many times, many times. And I think, at least for me, I found that was because like my body was the fail safe, like reminder. Like I knew I could jump this far. I knew I can fall and get back up. I knew I could do a flip and be okay. And so that was, always the check of my brain saying, you got this, you can do this. And then you show up and you're like, I got this, I can do this, you know? So it just served as a more powerful reminder to me of like what is true.
Right. And translating that to other things. That's why I often think of that feeling of flow in sport when I'm having a moment when I'm not feeling my most confident. I'll channel that, right? And start to um, envision myself on the ice or envision myself running or whatever it is that I can remind myself that flow state. And I know, Andrea, you are a coach, as I am, and I am so interested to talk to you about embodied confidence because it was something that through my coaching training, I went through the Coactive Institute for coach training, and we would go through different segments, and one of them was really embodying, and I felt like that one was the most sticky for me. And I remember my first session with my own coach, and she was asking me, where did I feel that physically? And I was like, I feel it like here, I'm pointing to my head. No, where do you feel it physically? Right. Took me a long time. I was very uncomfortable with that. How do you use, embodied coaching? How do you get your clients to get out of their mind and to get into their body?
Great question, Lindsay. And I would say my coaching training, like came mostly from the sports background. So, I did all of my training. I started coaching gymnastics when I was 15. And that's something I still do to this day. I coached, varsity wrestling, and I've coached parkour and free running, which was another sport I did. And so all of my courses and knowledge and pedagogy was around coaching sport first. And so a lot of just those really huge life aha moments that I was finding with my clients was teaching them how to fall. So a lot of my lessons come from the acrobatic and parkour world, and lessons I've learned in stunts. But physically, first thing I work with my clients is like, let's learn to fall and fail, because I think that's one of the most powerful life lessons to learn. I think especially for women, just that perfectionism, that that peer pressure, that like trying to people please, all of those things they show up as fear of failure often. And so I teach people how to physically fall, and I teach them to embrace it and how to do it safely, and to like get so comfy with falling that your fight or flight mode does not get activated, so that a failure or an obstacle is a blip in the road on the way, so that you can repeat your attempts. So, your road to success, like that's just a necessary bump, but it's not like the stop sign. And for me and my clients, that's just the most powerful example of how like a physical skill can translate to how you approach, something outside of, doing flips and kicks and fights.
That's so great. And it's so funny in hockey and skating. That's the first thing we do too. Like, you need to learn how to get back up. The most important thing is falling and getting back up. But I've never put together the way that you did the translation between, a business leader, right? You do
Mhm.
need to learn how to fail. You do need to learn how to overcome challenges and adversity. And when you can embrace that, it helps prevent the perfectionism. And do you ever have clients that were like me, that might resist some of the physical, or how do you actually get them into that physical state?
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest, that is sometimes the hardest. Most of the clients that I have lived an athletic or active life
Hmm.
previously,
Yep.
so it's not out of the realm of, familiar for them. But mostly it's either parenthood or age or injury, that's like, ugh, this is uncomfortable. And what I say to that is the movement and mindset training is always on a spectrum, right? And so if you're most comfortable moving, we start there. If you're most comfortable, with the mindset and the talking and breaking down those mental and emotional barriers, we start there. And then I pepper in the movement and the like getting weird. Like I'm very play centric. I'm very, it's messy learning. So, yeah. And then I just try and make it, I call it sneaky fitness, sneaky movement.
That's so great. I love that. So, do you do most of your coaching, Andrea, virtually or in person if it's physical? You can still,
Yeah.
um,
Most of it is online, but I travel a lot for like workshops and seminars and that kind of stuff. So more specific, like catered to specific groups. But when I'm doing kind of my like live your fierce uh, world, that's one-on-one online right now.
oh,
Mhm.
great. And so for teams, what would that look like in a team setting using the embodiment for a workshop or for training? That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually in the gym space. So that's a mix of like talking and sharing and moving. And, you know, usually we're dressed for the occasion. And if not, like simple movement can have a really big impact, as just a little bit of moving gets the blood flowing, gets circulation, gets that neurokinesthetic like senses like kicking off. Um, if I think I don't know when I have a next one in an office, but there's so much you could do even just with that on creative movement that doesn't get you that sweaty that you can wear whatever. So
That's so
yeah, part
great.
of it's just being creative.
Yeah, being creative. And I guess that's probably one of the outcomes, Andrea, I assume, if you were to take, to use one of your workshops where you're getting physical and you're like, I assume team building, like what other outcomes would you see from a workshop, an embodied workshop?
My personal goal is to fill the world with fierce females. And so many of the women that come into my workshops are either looking to improve their leadership skills or to get into leadership. And so I just really want to raise awareness of the badassery that is around us. And I want every woman to just feel so empowered to just like go after it unapologetically.
I
So
love
that's
that.
kind of the outcome goal.
That's
And have a
so
bit of
great.
fun. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. To loosen up, to get into flow, to feel physically confident. One of the things I loved, and I'm sure you might have remembered, right? The fake it, not until you make it. It's the fake it till you believe it. And that whole philosophy is around embodying it, like standing taller, feeling confident, even though your mind isn't there, like we'll get there, right? And through the movement and through the coaching and through embodying it, you slowly take the steps to really feel confident in every part of your body, in every fiber of your being. And so what do
Absolutely.
you have any like exercises or techniques? Like what do you do, practices, rituals to stay grounded and connected to your own embodied confidence?
Mm. That is such a great question. And I swing back to again in your talk when you did your power pose, like before you go into something either scary or unknown or intimidating or just that like self check of like how you want to show up. Cause I think that's so important, right? Of just setting the tone before. And I think of like Ted Lasso, when she's like, and she makes her like, um, and for me, I wouldn't say that it's like something going into it, but I do often and regularly try to do something that makes me uncomfortable. And as long as it's not going to kill me or maim me or hurt someone else, I find it very hard to not convince myself to try it.
Ooh.
And so I think constantly flirting with discomfort is actually what grounds me. Also gives me like some of my biggest aha moments. And yeah, and then I honestly, even now, I look back at like the woman I was 10 years ago, and now the person that instead of being like, oh no, like, I couldn't do that, or oh, what would they think? I'm like, I wonder what that would look like if I just tried, like literally, what is the worst can happen is usually what I say either before I try something, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if the answer's not death, then I will probably try it.
It's so great. And it's so true that the things that make us uncomfortable, the things that give us a little bit of, and whether it's like as an athlete, training, working out, pushing yourself, that's uncomfortable. That's hard to do, but that's where the growth and the magic happens, right? If we just want to be comfortable and just go through the motions, that's not growth. So I love the idea of challenging yourself. Is there anything that you've done recently that you want to share that's a putting yourself out there that challenges you?
Yeah, I so most of my job as a stunt woman, when I'm not coaching through Live
Mm-hmm.
Your Fierce, I'm on in film and television, mostly full time. And part of my job is constantly learning new skills because there's not one job that looks the same. And so I had to learn how to climb a tree like a lumberjack does, with the spikes on your shoes and the rope that goes up on the tree and like,
Yep.
um and I had like 2 days to figure it out before I had to do it on camera. And I was like,
Wow.
all right, girl, here we go. Like, talk about like showing up, being like, I'm a lumberjack, and being like, my head being like, you're not a lumberjack. And you'd be like, well, like,
I
like
am today.
just right. I'm like, trust my natural athletic ability, trust my ability to learn quickly, trust my ability to take feedback, and trust my ability to ask for help when I need it, to put the pieces together to troubleshoot and get to the other side. And we did, and it looked cool. I don't know if the lumberjacks would say that it looked, genuine, but we got up that dang tree and I had a lot of fun.
So I'm envisioning you and I both have lived, you currently live in Vancouver. I used to live in Vancouver. I'm envisioning the lumberjack show at the top of Grouse Mountain and those guys and gals shimmy up that. Now, I would argue that that might be a close to harming yourself or death, but I can't wait to see the video.
Yes, I will say I only had to go like 20 feet by myself. And then they attached a safety line to me for when I went up to like 90 feet,
Yep.
which
Oh
I
my
was very
gosh.
grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that kind of risk is like, I won't die from that
Mm.
because, they got me.
That's so great. I love that and that's a great motivator to continue to put ourselves in those uncomfortable positions. Um, is there anything that you do? Is there a daily? I love routines. I'm into a morning routine. I'm into a night routine. Is there anything that you do to set yourself up? Like, is there things that you do at the start of your day or the end of your day that you would say contributes to creating confidence or setting yourself up?
I absolutely love that you have routines, and I know just from meeting you and that like you are someone who like prioritizes routines and the benefits that come from that. Full disclosure, I have these grand ideas of routines and they start for a while
Yeah.
and then fizzle out. And so I'm a perpetual routine looper
Yeah.
and returner. But a couple of the things that I do without really much thought that I know translates into like my day is before I get out of bed, I pick the one thing that I want to accomplish and work towards just in my mind, and like be like, I'm going to tackle that. Like get excited about it, even if it's a hard thing that I have to do, if it's a hard conversation, if it's a delicately put email, even if it's or if it's a big workout that I'm like really set on accomplishing. So that's the one. And then anytime that I can get outside, because, the benefit, I'm actually up in Squamish, so north of Vancouver, lots of outdoor space. And so letting my dogs out in the morning with my cup of coffee, when my days are way better when I do that. I'm outside, I get fresh air. It's like 10 minutes when I'm not on my phone and I'm just taking in the day. It always sets the tone for a better day.
Sets yourself
Mhm.
up. And I love that you choose something that you want to accomplish. I assume it's like a bigger rock. I envision, something I like to um, talk about or envision, Andrea, is you think of a jar. And if you put I'm not sure if you've heard of this before. You think of a
No.
jar, you put the big rocks in first. You say to, let's say you're doing it in front of a group of kids, okay, do you think we can get more rocks in? No way. And then you put pebbles in. Oh, and then they slip between. And then, do you think we could get, no, you put sand in, right? And the sand continues to fill the jar. But if we were to start with filling the jar with sand, and then put in the pebbles and then put in the rocks. And the rocks are those big things that we need to accomplish, those challenging things. So I love that you start with like your big rock of the day to make sure that you get it done. Because what often happens is we fill our day with lots of little sand, lots of little
I
pebbles, and we miss out on the big rocks.
I love that
Yeah.
analogy so much, Lindsay. I am going to put that in my
Yeah.
pocket. And I do have to credit my father for that. He imparted a lot of wonderful wisdom. And the one thing, and he's an entrepreneur as well, and he always drilled into us, do the hard thing
Yeah.
first. And
Yeah.
that has stuck with me since I was 7 years old. And the days I don't do it and I start with the sand and the pebbles,
Yep.
I feel really disappointed. It doesn't matter how many of those items on my to-do list I ticked off that were like small, that big one, if that's not done, I feel some feels about it.
Totally. You think about it
Yeah.
when you go to bed,
Yes.
right? You just want it off so you can clear your day. Yeah. So another thing, and I'm sure this comes up a lot with your clients, I know it comes up with mine and with me, is imposter syndrome. So both male and female, right? A lot of even senior executives, and that's kind of the definition of imposter syndrome, right? Like you've accomplished, you've succeeded, you're doing well, but you have this little voice in your head that says, you've gotten here on luck or you've gotten here just by chance. And that's the other reason why I like to say that it's fake it till you believe it, because I believe when you say fake it till you make it, it exasperates imposter syndrome. And so how do you use the embodiment, the physical aspect of coaching someone on confidence to be able to try to help someone with imposter syndrome? How does that connect for you in your work?
Hmm. That is a really great question. I will try not to tangent from it. Uh,
Please do.
no, it's such a good question. Um, I would say, yes, I'm guilty of battling imposter syndrome on probably in any arena that I have danced in my life, whether that was as an athlete, as a coach, as a performer, as a mother, wife. Like I've battled with that. And what always brings me back is a very powerful lesson that I finally learned. And I learned it in film, in stunts, where I was waiting for someone to tell me that I was good, that I was there, that I had made it. I was waiting for permission to make it. And that, or I was waiting for someone to give me the list of things I had to tick off to know that I had made it.
Right, the
And
external validation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I finally realized that it didn't matter how many things on the list I took or how many people said that I made it, there was still always going to be someone or something that is saying you're not it or you didn't make it or that. And so as soon as I figured out I'm not going to please everyone, not everyone is going to, like, no one can actually tell you made it there. And the truly successful people that I admire and am inspired by, they are able to tone that out and move forward, understanding that there's naysayers everywhere and that is a them thing. And so I found that a very important message of when you bring it to the physical, right? Whether it's like, to use my, like, climbing up over an obstacle is something that I work on, with my clients, of a literal obstacle.
Yeah. Physical.
A fence, a ledge, a box, something that you have to get up and over,
Yeah.
which to the average, person that is like fearful or not confident or insecure might look at it and be like, ooh, I can't go, like, I can't do that. That's for someone else to do. Someone else could do that so much better than me. I don't know how to do it. Oh, I'm just going to go back the other way. Like all of these things that, again, I think translate perfectly into real life.
Right.
So what do you have to get up over it? And that might be really messy. It might be with help. It might be progressions, or it might take a long time, whatever. But that feeling of when you actually go for it and figure out, get to the other side, that elation that you feel, you're already now looking at the next obstacle. You're not looking at the one you just climbed. And so I think for imposter syndrome, it's taking that analogy of like, your goal needs to be like that sole focus, right? Your sole focus of like, I'm going to get there. I trust myself to get there, and I trust myself to have the tools to get there. And
And
it does, I find it drowns out those naysayers and those negative thoughts and the like questions of like, am I good enough to be here? Do I deserve to be here? And at the end of the day, I'm like, do you want to be there?
yeah.
So like, let's go there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you going to get there, through your own grit, skill, all of that? Like, great. Like, let's go there. I don't know if that answers it.
It totally does. The couple things that I really take away from it is I do believe that when you can finally come to that realization that someone else's opinion of you is none of your business, it is freeing in so many ways, right? Because if you're looking for external validation, if you're looking for someone else to say, yes, you've achieved it, yes, you've accomplished, like you're never going to get there. It's always going to be something else. The other thing I love, Andrea, is you're saying you have the tools, and the tools are specific to you. So what might work for me might not work for you. So it's working with your clients to say what's within your tool belt, what's within your capability, and do you want this? So let's go for it. So I love that. That's so impactful and so powerful. What's one thing, if someone's daunted by, the embodiment of feeling confidence, they're really stuck. They're stuck in their physical, they might be stuck in their head. What's one small step or one small encouragement tip, tactic that you'd recommend to a leader?
Okay, it might sound really weird. This is one single activity that I practice and I get others to practice. And it covers a lot of bases. Going to a playground, preferably not at night, because that might be a little creepy. So like during the day where other people might be around, and interacting with a piece of that playground equipment. And there is something so terrifying about being playful or not knowing if you're going to be able to like execute the thing in front of a bunch of people that are toddlers in this case, right, which are probably the harshest critics of them all. But that tapping into our playful selves of our inner child that just is born to move and try things, and that it's the hardest lesson for people that I know to try and do, but I'd say it packs the most punch, and it takes 15 minutes.
Yeah. And it's free
for 5 minutes, hang on a monkey bar if your shoulders and back and neck are okay.
Yep.
Balance on one of the things, you know what I mean? Like, climb up to the top of the thing and be weird for a second. Yeah. Like that doesn't even require movement. That just requires like presence, and when you realize that maybe someone's laughing at you, but I guarantee you more people are like, wow, like they're just like, they're doing it. Like it's cooler than you think to watch people just do what brings them joy.
So sometimes people, I've seen this and heard this too, especially with women, that they're afraid of coming across as overconfident, of looking cocky, as looking arrogant. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, first off, so many thoughts.
Yes.
Yes. Especially even like the women versus the men showing up as, arrogant and cocky and for themselves. But without touching on that, and just making it kind of a broad observation. I think that the biggest misconception is that I deem confidence as an internalized, genuine energy. And I view like that bravado and that arrogance as a projected mask or character that you are trying to tell other people how they should see you. And that's typically rooted, right, in insecurity, in the people pleasing, in the lack of self-confidence. And so even if you're not fully confident yet, you can show up genuinely. And
Agreed.
that energy, I think one always reads more confident than arrogance, and I think for women, it is a tricky thing to learn because we have been so like socialized and conditioned to, be small, apologetic,
Right.
like take up less space, be kind and smile and all those things. Not that any of those things are bad, but like, it can be scary to be big and loud and like opinionated. And, I get that feedback a lot. And I mean, as I think like you grew up in a male, like dominated sport of hockey, and like the wrestling room was
I'm sure the same.
not the same. Yeah. And even, stunts and film, like it's very, male centric. And I
And parkour,
don't mind
right?
operating. Sorry?
And parkour as well.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah.
Other than gymnastics, I chose very like male dominated arenas, and I am comfortable showing up, in my masculine form, in my masculine energy and all of that, and navigating and maneuvering that. I'm not saying it's fun all the time, but like, I can. But that feminine energy that can still come out as confidence to me in those moments is when I'm just internally calm because I trust myself to share my expertise when it's asked for, to call something out that I either want or don't want, and to lead with kindness, because I feel like we do get from A to B better when we lead with kindness. And and I think all of that goes together for a confident energy. I could be wrong,
Yes.
but that's what I'm going off of.
I love that phrase, confident energy, because when I'm feeling confident, that's how I would describe it. It's this, yeah, flow, it's this energy, and it manifests physically, and it also manifests in action, in moving forward. So I love that confident energy. Um, and so, how has, if you were to think of your own leadership journey, Andrea, how has your relationship with confidence changed, if any, at all over time?
Wildly.
Yeah.
Wildly is how I would explain it. And I think that's one of the benefits with working with my clients is I honestly have experienced the full gamut of people pleasing, of perfectionism, of shame, of apologizing for taking up space, for, imposter syndrome, for all of that. And so for me, the strength had always come to going back to my movement to remind me of all of those things, to take up space, to remember what I am capable of, to be curious on the what if instead of afraid of the, why not? Yeah.
So true. It's like a roller coaster. It really is. Our confidence journey. And then even though the moments might become, in my case too, my moments of lack of confidence might be less and more short-lived, they still exist. They're still there every day. Just coming up with the tools and techniques and channeling it. But it is a roller
And I
coaster.
love that you said that like even like I saw your confidence and your exuberant energy in person, so I can testament to that. And I think all of the women in leadership and successful women I meet understand that confidence is not a state that you live in constantly.
Yes.
It is something like it's not something we're born with. It's something we build.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something we have to maintain. And so it can come and go and ebb and flow and, dim and glow and all of those things. And so it's not a constant state that we should be, oh, we finally hit confident, boom,
Right.
autopilot,
Right.
like sit back, here we go.
Mic drop, I'm
Which,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
like wouldn't that be lovely? But it's not. And that also was just such a wonderful realization that confident people are just, they trust themselves in that, but they still have the moments where like they're having an off day and they're like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm going to succeed here. Like you're allowed to have self-doubt and still be a confident person. You're allowed to be butthurt over failing, at something you really wanted to work towards and didn't quite get yet. You're all of that, I think,
means you're human.
Yeah.
Means that you're human. So Andrea, if you were to think back to when you were earlier on in your career, is there a piece of advice or something that you wished someone else would have shared with you?
Yes, it would be that confidence is not something that you can fake for a long time. Like and nobody can give it to you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love that. So true. Okay. It's now time for lightning round. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, leadership questions, and just the first thing that comes to your mind, Andrea, tell me about a leader who you admire.
Leader I admire would be Jacinda Ardern, and I think her autobiography is coming out soon. She was the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, and I just think she was a leader that showed that you could lead with empathy. And I get goosebumps just thinking and wishing there was more of that in the world today.
100%. I totally agree, and I will read that the second it comes out. So besides her book, what's a book or podcast that you might recommend on confidence or leadership?
Okay, I just finished reading this book and it blew my mind, so I had to listen to it on audiobook as well. It's plug to Unbound by Kasha Urbaniak. And she is a New York dominatrix and studied to be a Shaolin nun. And she wrote this book about women like unleashing their power to ask and go after what they want and just really getting in touch with themselves. And it was like,
I can't wait. Awesome. So you talked about my my power posing, and I do that all the time before I public speak. That's something that just gets me right into the right frame of mind. Is there a practice you lean on before you step into something that might feel uncomfortable or that's big like that?
Mine is laughter.
Yeah.
I need to do something weird and silly. Yes, like I'm like, if I am nervous in that, I'm going in, with a tense energy. That is the wrong foot that I want to enter into it. So I got to get giggly because.
And you trip over your feet. I laugh because when we were at the Fierce and Fearless conference on the panel, you had everybody terrified that you'd broken your leg, but then we were all dying of laughter. So I love that. I'm also someone who loves a good laugh. And what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
You're never going to please everyone, so spend more time pleasing yourself.
Great. And to end it off, I'd like you to finish this sentence to send us on our way. Confidence is best built from the neck down and lived from the heart out. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here. I've learned so much. I know our listeners have learned so much. I'm so grateful for you, for all of your wisdom and advice and kindness and friendship, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you, Lindsay, for having me. This was such a treat. I'm going to have to come down and see you in sunny California.
Yes, you will. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
If you've ever found yourself thinking, how do we actually get better as an organization? Here's a simple place to look: your managers. Managers have an outsized impact on performance, culture, and whether people stay or leave. But most managers are promoted because they're good at their job, not because anyone taught them how to manage people. That's exactly why we created Manager Essentials. Manager Essentials is a 100% online program designed to support new and emerging managers with real training and one-on-one coaching. It helps strong performers step into people management with more capability and less guesswork. If you're interested in developing managers who can handle the day-to-day realities of leading people, you can learn more at plumleadershipgroup.com. Thanks for tuning in to Grown to Lead, a podcast by the Plum Leadership Group. You can find even more insight and conversation like this one on LinkedIn from the Plum Leadership Group or on Instagram at Plum Leadership. Hear new episodes when they're available by following Grown to Lead wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you are a masterpiece and a work of art at the same time.